The views and opinions expressed on the following show are not necessarily the views and opinions of WHPS, its affiliates, management, or sponsors. You're watching WHPS, Highland Park, Detroit.
FM 88.1 WHPR, Highland Park.
WVIE 107.3 FM Charlotte, Amalia, Virgin Islands.
It's that time, y'all. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. Yeah, it's straight talk with Valerie. Come on. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. Yeah, it's straight talk with Valerie. Come on. It's straight talk with Valerie. It's straight talk with Valerie. Come on. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. It's straight talk with Valerie. Come on. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. It's straight talk with Valerie. Come on. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. It's straight talk with Valerie. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. It's straight talk with Valerie. Come on. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. It's straight talk with Valerie. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. It's straight talk with Valerie. Come on.
We have devils in the courtroom. Devils in the courtroom. We have devils in the courtroom wearing black robes. Devils with briefcases lying through their nose. Some devils have a gavel, they hit real hard. Some devils just there punching 8-time card. While the probate courts are stealing your money, they're scheming and they're plotting. So much corruption going on inside. The judiciary abuse can't hide. We have devils in the courtroom wearing black robes. Devils with briefcases lying through their nose. Some devils have a gavel, they hit real hard. Some devils just there punching 8-time card. We have devils in the courtroom, judiciary abuse. Devils in the courtroom, probate courts. We have devils in the courtroom stealing your money. Devils in the courtroom and they're plotting. We have devils in the courtroom, so much corruption. Devils in the courtroom, we have devils in the courtroom.
Imagine losing all of your rights, even though you did nothing wrong. Someone you did not choose is given control over your person and property, making you a modern-day slave.
Help me.
You may even be taken from your home and hidden away from loved ones,
Where am I?
while your assets are pillaged. Everything is made legal through a judge's signature. You might as well be in prison because you can't get out. If your family fights to defend you, they are defamed and sanctioned. No governmental agency will help because it's approved by a shadow justice system,
I want my family.
the probate court. It's all under the guise of protecting you. Reality as you know it is gone. A team of attorneys, examiners, and other court insiders have created an alternate reality that becomes the new truth. But it is all based on lies. It is the deception of protection.
What's happening, Detroit? You are tuned in to 88.1 FM WHPR or 107.3 WVIE if you're tuning in from the Virgin Islands. And I want to say hello to everybody on Facebook. You are tuned in to Black Coffee, no sugar, no cream. And tonight is another segment of Devils in the Courtroom. You know, we have a lot of lawbreakers in the seats of lawmakers. And it's time for accountability. It's time for some type of process, some type of solution, resolution, or reform to get rid of these people. They're destroying families and they're destroying lives. A system that is designed to protect us is treating everyone that comes in encounter with it as a victim, a voiceless victim, silencing family members who want to speak up on behalf of their loved ones. It's like human trafficking without the prostitution or the sex slave portion, but because of the estate trafficking portion, where they are pillaging these assets. Millions of dollars have been taken away from these families at the hands of Judge O'Brien and his team in the Oakland County Court. I want to introduce to you another story of the devils in the courtroom in Oakland County Court. This is the story of Christine Abood and her family. Say hello to everyone, Christine.
Hello out there, and I'm glad you're listening tonight.
I'm so glad to have you. First of all, I want to pay homage to your mother. I read your story and the other information that you sent to me, and it was very vivid, and I feel like I knew her. I felt like I was reading about this very sweet lady who worked all her life just so she can be comfortable, and who just wanted to rely on her children that she raised in this time to be able to do right by her and to take care of her. And as the other stories have presented, all it takes is one family member to get a bug in their butt and then get in front of this judge in this courtroom, and everything goes to hell in a rocket, like fast. I just feel like when your mother was put in under the control of Mr. Yoon, correct, in 2016,
Yep. Correct.
At that time was when your brother had the estate plan and all of these documents altered to give him 80% control over your mother. So he was making all of this decisions. He did this unbeknownst to you, and he made all of these decisions to take control. To the degree, even with the person that Mr. Yoon, who was working in conjunction with your brother with the court, you didn't even know where your mother was at. Mm-hmm. So for a long time, you didn't even have visitation with your mother. And what broke my heart and pissed me off royally, you never saw her again until she transitioned. Mm-hmm. And I said I wasn't going to cry, but I'm kind of, as strong as I am and as much as I curse, you know, that broke me, because I couldn't imagine not seeing my mother ever again and wondering what's going on with her estate, watching her assets be pillaged, watched all of her bank account and everything just diminish. And I have no clue what's going on. And the next time I see my mom, she has transitioned. You have been to several listening tours to talk about what has happened to you. I read about one that you went to, and Attorney General Dana Nessel didn't even allow you to speak and share your story. Tell my audience about that. What happened that day?
Well, what the listening tour was designed to do was to go around the state and see if, after, you know, she got word of what was going on in Oakland County, if this was something that was systemic and happening in a lot of the probate courts around the state. And what she found was, yes, it was. Mm-hmm. Because speaker after speaker who came to the listening tours from small towns to big cities, Traverse City, Pontiac, all were saying the same thing, that there is a systemic problem, that the probate court has become a honeypot for lawyers who don't feel like actually doing their jobs, but are predators and find it a much easier path to go into probate court, get to know the judges, and be there and aware of who comes in ahead of time so that they can pillage their estate and take the good members of the family and push them aside and out of the way and call them incompetent and think that they're the ones stealing money or whatever, when it's actually the other family member. Or when it goes to court, the judge works with the lawyer who he knows is there to pillage the estate and approves everything, even though it's against the law. So when I went on to the listening tour, I had a different story every time, and sometimes I was representing other people who could not make it. And what they started to do was they had you fill out a card with your name and addressing your issue. And then what they would do is start calling, rather than first come, first serve, they would go through the cards and pull only the ones that they wanted publicized. So the severe ones, they would not call on. And so oftentimes I sat there after traveling all that way, and others as well, and we weren't called upon to give our stories or someone we were representing because they couldn't be there. So they became choosy with who they wanted the news media to see speak and who they wanted to hear.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because I watched some of your footage, and baby, you don't play. You don't play. You remind me of myself. I'm shooting straight from the hip. This is a serious matter. I'm not filtering my words. You know, if my words sound harsh or raw, but they're coming from my heart. You know, and you were speaking from the heart. How dare they hide your mother and keep her away from you or whatever until she's transitioned. You get visitation. Oh, now you can come and see your mother and she's deceased. You know, they don't want that in front of the news media at all, but you had every right to speak on that day. I don't like listening tours. A friend of mine just reached out to me because they were having one about police brutality and things going on with the police. I don't want to be patronized. No, thank you. Because you're not going to do a darn thing after this tour is over. This is something to save face. It's another politrick, like you're really listening to the people and you're going to do something. You don't have to have a listening tour and get in front of these people to know what the hell going on. You know what's going on. But instead of you sitting there and being accused of doing nothing, you do a listening tour and you go all around the state as if you're really going to do something, and you're not. I have seen mounds and mounds of paperwork and evidence. I've only been doing this with you and the other victims of probate corruption for 6 months. And what I've seen in 6 months is enough to repulse me, make me angry. It makes me sad. A range of emotions that I have experienced, because Chris, I could be you. This could be my mother. This could be anyone that's on this feed. This could be your mother. All it takes is for you and a family member to disagree on something about the care of your loved one, for this probate court to get involved, and you get one of these jackleg lawyers. I'm going to call them jackleg just because they're not doing what's right. They are not upholding their oath of office. The judges are not following their canon. They're just doing whatever they want to do. And it makes me angry because it's we the people. You work for us, Judge O'Brien. You work for us, Mr. Yoon. You work for us. We voted you in. And how dare you say the things that you say? And he's so nasty with it, the way that he talks to people or whatever. And there's footage and everything about that. And nobody's doing anything. So, Chris, what I'm going to do is go to the footage of one of the tours where you did have an opportunity to speak in Kent County. I have footage of that, and I just want to play that footage because it will give our audience an idea of what happened with you and your family and what it's like when you go in one of these listening tours to have the opportunity to speak. So roll that clip for me, Marquise.
And I'm glad we're here on the same forum fighting for justice. I'm wearing black today because I'm representing my mother who can't be here to speak as an elder. She was, I'd say it was murder. To put it mildly, we are a victim of the probate court in Oakland County, and I walked in there one day to get relief following the Michigan State law, MCL 705, whatever it is, which entitles me to guardianship. And I'm retired, so I thought it would be a great opportunity since she was being isolated by my brother, who was her caregiver and everything, and we weren't allowed to go see her, speak to her, and everything. Had the judge listened to me, she would know that while we were isolated, guess what? He redid her entire trust, amended it, and put him to 80% recipient of her trust, and with a no contest clause. So please listen to people when they say their elders are being isolated. There's probably a damn good reason. And now I can't do anything about it. Can't do anything about my mother dying. They couldn't even find her for the last 3 days under a guardianship, which was court appointed. And so in the meantime, there's nothing I can do for my mother or the trust that was in violation of a state statute. It was fraud, he and his lawyer. But I'm here to speak for the victims. What we've done is we have tried and tried and tried to expose what's going on in Oakland County probate. This is what we did. Since June 2018, an award-winning journalist, and I'm going to talk fast because I want to finish to the end, plus her team of researchers and forensic CPAs have examined 2,278 separate cases at the Oakland County Circuit Court, belonging to 3 public administrators, Jennifer Carney, Thomas Brendan Frazier, and John Young, and 1 former public administrator, John Munger. These cases were presided over all 4 Oakland County probate judges, Hallmark, Callahan, O'Brien, and Chief Judge Kathleen Ryan. In 70% of the cases, neither the alleged victims nor their families were given any prior notice of a guardianship or conservatorship or advised of their rights. Petitions were filed by APS along with nursing home and hospital accounts, receivable managers, social workers, and attorneys. They were not accompanied by medical evidence and included undocumented reasons such as has diabetes, has bipolar, unspecified mental illness, may have dementia, lacks civilization, fell down in the parking lot of Costco. 98.9% of the time guardianship was awarded without a ward present at the hearing and over objections voiced to their guardian ad litem. In contested hearings, APS lawyered up using an attorney from the Attorney General's office. Estate planning documents such as durable power of attorney and medical advocacy designations were tossed out by the judges for no reason. In 100% of cases, the ward was moved out of their home, sometimes forcibly, and into an assisted living, long-term care facility, group home, or unlicensed group home. The journalist and her team visited 24 unlicensed group homes over Thanksgiving weekend 2018 and found 17 to be understaffed. Residents were left alone on subhuman living conditions. The court records show wards moved to different unlicensed homes anywhere from 2 to over a dozen times in the course of a year. In 100% of the cases, the ward was stripped of all savings and made indigent from 1 to 3 years of a guardianship. Review of accounts filed by all 4 public administrators and signed by all 4 judges showed unaccounted for missing money ranging from $2,000 to $1.8 million. Isn't that right? In 100% of cases, wards' personal property was either sold off or thrown away, regardless of personal or emotional value. I have pictures here of an entire lawn filled with personal possessions, and I followed the dump truck up to a Pontiac landfill. As a teacher, you don't throw that stuff into a landfill. It's not biodegradable. And I watched as they dug a hole, dumped it in, and covered it over and rolled it over. Evidence gone. In 100% of the cases, wards' homes were sold from anywhere from $10,000 to $150,000 below market value. This is a scheme. Homes were sold within a week of being listed, and buyers were most often investors, including estate and probate attorneys. In 100% of the cases, the ward's vehicles were sold off and the value unaccounted for and unreported in accounts and inventories. In 100% of the cases, annual reports of visits were lacking any substantial evidence information on the ward's health or well-being. In 89% of the cases, families who tried to release their wards faced prolonged legal battles, lasting anywhere from 8 months to 4 years. Forced isolation of the wards was common. Families complained the wards were moved by public administrators and no one was notified. In 2018 elections, wards were not permitted to vote. Under EPIC, guardianship or conservators is supposed to be temporary, but without a home, car, access to a computer, or decent clothing, a ward cannot become self-sufficient because getting a job is impossible. Court files showed wards who have been under guardianship for over 20 years. 2 other task forces, the 1998 Michigan Supreme Court and 2005 Governor's Task Force, recommended changes, none of which were implemented. Why will this one be any different? The journalist spotlighting Oakland County Probate Court was barred from the Attorney General from attending a March 25th press conference announcing the task force, at which Supreme Court spokesman John Nevins said, "We have no specific instances of wrongdoing."
You are listening to Black Coffee, No Sugar, No Cream, Straight Talk with Valerie. This is a Devils in the Courtroom segment, and I have with me Christine Aboud. That's who you saw speaking at a listening tour that was going around the state to hear about wards of the court and the probate court system. Millions of dollars of assets have been pillaged. Wards, as they're called, but mothers and fathers, as we call them, have been isolated from their families, deemed incoherent and incompetent. Hell, I would be that too if you put me in a nursing home and you gave me a bunch of medication. I'm going to be delirious. I just cannot. Every time I do this show, it makes me think about my own mother and my own brother. My brother and I aren't the closest. We don't agree on a lot of stuff. And I swear to you, Christine, I see us going down this road. You know,
Yep.
And what I want my audience to know, I know you're probably saying, well, is there a will? Is there a trust? Is there a power of attorney? You have all of that. It does not matter. They throw it all out the window. So my mother can have all of this paperwork, have me in charge or whatever, but if my brother finds one of these jackleg attorneys that wants to fight this issue, he can. And anything that my mother has put forth for her well-being and to have me be in authority can be challenged.
Yes, that's absolutely true. And in fact, is it okay if I?
Oh, go ahead, hon. Go ahead. You're free to do whatever you want.
Yes, that the parents, you know, from the World War II era, saved all their money, worked hard, and they put it in either trusts or they put some sort of security on it. They knew how to hang on to their money, you know, from the Depression. And so they insured that. And so for my father, for example, he said, I'm going to do this because I want to avoid probate court.
Mm-hmm.
Where did we end up?
Probate court.
And what happens is it doesn't matter if you have power of attorney. In the case of Mimi Brune, it gets thrown out. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter if you have any type of legal authority. It gets thrown out, like in Jane Collins, in, again, O'Brien's courtroom. Judge O'Brien in Oakland County. He's probably the worst one. Now, I had Judge Hallmark, and when I complained about the lack of visitation, I went to the AP,
Mm-hmm.
Adult Protective Services. I went to the Attorney General, and they called the supervisors to find out what was going on. When we went to court again for me to get released of this guarded visitation, and at this point I had done some research up in the Oakland County Law Library, and I decided to be my own lawyer because I didn't trust them. And when I went in with the facts and the laws at hand, she knew that, And she got scared because she's not used to dealing with the law. And so I put her against the wall with the law. And the other lawyer said, well, you know, she contacted the Adult Protective Services and the Attorney General. And she leaned forward to the lawyer. She said, come here. And she said, and I heard her, what do you want me to do with her? So because I was a whistleblower in this package, I became the enemy. So they said, take all her visitation away. And she did. She said, all right, your visitation is suspended. And that's because I tried to get help. I was a whistleblower, and they were getting called upon as to what's going on, and they didn't like it. Judge O'Brien harasses victims when they come to his courtroom. He harassed Heather Catala when she brought the news cameras, which she is totally entitled by law to go in. And he told her, you can't come into my courtroom. He doesn't want anybody observing what he's doing. So he went to court, and they were able to secure a place in his court. You can't do that. Well, I, as a witness, went in because a friend of mine had gone back to Colorado, where she was in Michigan caregiving for her mother, and she had Judge O'Brien, and she had Thomas Brennan Frazier.
Yeah, she was on this show, if I believe.
Jane Collins.
Jane Collins, yes.
Yeah. And I went and got the transcripts, because when I went and told her as a friend, look, I'll go and observe your court case since you can't be here. So I merely walked in there, and the judge doesn't know me I never had a case before him. I've never had a discussion with him. But when I walked in, I was carrying a little notebook like this. And when I pulled it out and I was standing by the door because I wanted to leave early and I didn't want to disturb anybody, he's talking, and all of a sudden he breaks the conversation, and I have the transcript right here as to how he intimidates and abuses people. And here's what he said to me as I took out my notebook. He said, hold on a second. Miss, standing up there near the door, you go have a seat in the back somewhere. You can take all the notes you want. You're not going to stand there, okay? You're standing in the way. It's a fire hazard. Seriously? I'm a fire hazard? And then he says, it's a safety hazard. He got confused because he knew the fire one wasn't going to fly. And then he says, get out of the way. I've seen people coming in and out and having to go around you. Well, I was 52 pounds heavier when I went there. Now I'm 52 pounds lighter. He can't say that anymore. People don't, I saw the video and they walked right by me. I was a fly on the wall. There was no interference whatsoever. And he said, this is not a place for you to stay. I'm sorry. And then he said, and you know my last name is Aboud, which is Lebanese. And he saw me on video speaking before the commissioners, so he knew my name. And he said to me, I'm sorry, do you understand English?
Oh, my God.
Yes, he did. And then I stopped and I looked at him like, okay, now we're talking.
Yeah, he's making this personal.
Yes, really, really bad. Ethnic intimidation is what he's doing. And then he says, English, just like that. And I just looked at him. I was stunned. I was absolutely stunned. I actually have a master's degree, and English is my minor, and I teach English. I've taught it for 40 years. So he's talking to the wrong person. And I'm looking at him going, did he really just say that? And to me, that was an ethnic intimidation. And then he said, and then I said to him, yes, Your Honor, I do understand English. And he said, then have a seat. And I said, okay. And he said, in one of those pews, have a seat in one of those pews or leave the courtroom. Again, he was poking me, trying to get a reaction out of me, which he did Jody White.
Yes.
And you saw happened there. He provoked her. She's totally innocent. I've seen him over and over again provoke people until he says, call the sheriff.
Well, we have some footage that we're going to show later of him actually doing that. And I know Rick Black is just as mild-mannered but intelligent and, you know, knows his stuff. But the way that he treated him, and we have a little clip that we're going to play in the second segment so that my audience can see exactly how he acts.
Yes. And he says right here, well, when you're not reacting, miss, I'll tell you what, you go ahead, write it down as many times as you want, meaning notes on the case. And then he said, I'll autograph it as a fact that I told you to move.
Well, because he knows he's untouchable. But see, that's the problem. Behavior such as that should not be allowed on the bench. But there's a lot of arrogant judges out there, you know, that act that way.
And there is a law out there that protects the public from going into public places like courtrooms, libraries, museums, from ethnic intimidation. And what he did is he broke that law and statute right there.
Absolutely. And then when you file complaints with the Judicial Tenure Commission, nothing happens. You know, so there are all of these structures in place. And I can't say that the system is broken. Yes, some of the laws are archaic and some of the things don't make sense anymore. You know, they were written hundreds of years ago. However, but there is no accountability of any of this. They can just do whatever they want to do, and they're never held accountable. You know, as we go to this hard break here, you guys are listening to Black Coffee, No Sugar, No Cream, Straight Talk with Valerie, and I have with me Chris Abood. This segment is called Devils in the Courtroom, and we're talking about corruption in the Oakland County probate court system. We're going to go to a music break, and we will be right back with you.
We're back again, discussing the same old things that are never resolved, and it's unfair to the people at the front of this. They get no share of all they have. The division blinds my vision of a happier decision, where the future isn't told by what you see on television. And the younger generation will carry forward a nation without frustration, harsh dictation. Everyone has occupation, but no more hesitation, no more devastation, no more hierarchy and conversation, and no normalization of not knowing where you're going, not knowing where you're going, not knowing where you're going to sleep for the night. Non-stop conflict, non-stop hate across the seas in another place, but closer to home also isn't very great. Poverty and oddities will accumulate. Back again, discussing the same old things that are never resolved, and it's unfair to the people at the front of this. They get no share of all we have. The division blinds my vision of a happier decision, where the future isn't told by what you see on television. And the younger generation will carry forward a nation without frustration, harsh dictation. Everyone has occupations. No more hesitation, no more devastation, no more hierarchy in conversation, and no normalization.
You have been listening to 88.1 FM WHPR if you're in the Detroit area, 107.3 WVIE in the Virgin Islands, and everybody that's on Facebook. I see William Edwards, Yolanda Roussan, Bobby Lemons, my cousin Geraldine Warren. I love you so much. Laverne Johnson, Brenda Jackson Jordan, one of my classmates. Bruce Ross, how you doing? Joe Sterling, another classmate. Hi, Zed Bowles, my cousin. Barry Dobb, how you doing? All the way out there in Las Vegas. You are listening to a segment called Devils in the Courtroom, and we are talking about the corruption in the Oakland County probate court system and how elderly people are being taken from their homes, hid away in convalescent homes, licensed care facilities, and some not licensed, and their family members never see them again. In the interim, all their assets are pillaged, their homes are sold for thousands of dollars below market rate, their bank accounts are depleted, and it is going on right here in Oakland County, and it has been going on for a while. I have with me Chris Abood, and I want to thank you again for coming on the show and sharing your story and educating people about what goes on in that courtroom and that system. Before the break, we talked about the behavior of Judge O'Brien in his courtroom. I just think it's reprehensible, and I'm going to play this clip. It's for educational purposes, but I want people to see what Chris, Jane Collins, Jody White, and the other victims in probate have to put up with outside of the emotional and mental stress that goes along with fighting this system to try to care for their loved ones and to save millions and millions of dollars of assets. I had one person on this show, they had taken 1.3 million so far, and that financial clock is still ticking. The lady had been deceased for 1 year, and right before Jane Collins came on this show, she got another bill for $50,000. She's deceased. What are you billing for now? And this is all happening right up under our noses. So, Marquise, can you play that clip of Judge O'Brien in the courtroom? I want the audience to see and hear exactly what goes on.
Mm-hmm. Cool. 23 GA.
Good morning, Your Honor. John Munger. This is my petition.
Sure. Mr. Munger, you need to share some of those animals with your daughter. Put them up in her office so that she'll have them on screen when it's, when she's handling the cases.
I'll see what
Do you swear or affirm in the matter before the court you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. All of the interested parties were served, and I've received no objection. I would ask that the account be allowed and the fees approved as prayed.
It's granted.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, great. Calling Brun v. Munger, 2020-395-257 CZ. Is somebody gonna put their appearance on the record, or do I gotta drag it out again? Okay, is anyone else here on this case besides, court watchers? I can't hear anybody.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I'm a court watcher.
Well, you don't have to tell me you're a court watcher. Of the issues necessarily decided by virtue of those orders granting those petitions. Whoever's talking better mute your microphone or you're going to be removed immediately. Please keep an eye. If you see anybody making noise, remove them immediately. Okay. Mr. Munger filed a petition not to prevent Mimi Brun from having visitation. All he did was put the issue in front of the judge and said, here's the issue. Here are the concerns.
Your Honor, can I interrupt?
And what happened? No, nobody stopped me. Nobody. Whoever that was, who was it?
Rick Black.
Remove him. Therefore, it is hereby ordered that claims 12-720, quote, objection, unquote, or motion for reconsideration denied. Please, there is going to be no further discussion today of this. I'll see you on the next hearing date.
Your Honor, may I place an objection on the record?
No. You, Mr. Straley, do not say one word. You're done. Go to the Court of Appeals. Take everyone out who's connected with that case. I want to hear one more word.
That is reprehensible. Someone's life, someone's loved one's life, life savings, assets, and everything is on the line, and he can just say, shut up. Say one more thing. He running this courtroom like Death Row Records, like that Suge Knight. He is gangster. Shut up. Who was that? Get him out of here. That's someone's life. And the more we have these delays, the more money that gets spent down. So he can just delay all he wants, and that the money is just going away. Now, what I did not like was your stories have proven to me that Judge O'Brien and Munger work together, and Munger's getting rich, off of his relationship with Judge O'Brien. But to be a kiki all in the camera when you're supposed to be working, that's not professional. Or tell your daughter to put one of those taxidermies. That's not what you're supposed to be doing right now, sir. Excuse me. And you said something on the break that Munger had a $25,000 painting in his office that came from the estate of one of the people who he had conservatorship over?
Yes. And actually, when he broke into the house, it was under the daughter's name, not under the client. So he illegally broke into the home and then started to empty it and looked for papers. And in the process, he was witness taking a painting and putting it in his own car, and they found it hanging in his office. And when brought in trial, the judge says, well, will you give it back to her? That's all. You got to slap. If I stole a painting worth $25,000, I'd be in jail.
Yes.
I would be in jail. No questions asked. But she just said very calmly to him, why don't you give it back to her? This is how they operate. They're crooks.
Well, I'll tell you what. We were once strangers, and I'm sure we have wildly different backgrounds. But we have been united into this small army of people who are fighting because of the emotional and financial devastation that this process has caused. And I just want to thank you for bringing your story on this platform, because I think people need to know what's going on. So again, I thank you. Let's move to one thing, because there was one attorney that I read about, and he's afraid. He wants to do the right thing. He has experienced the corruption, but he is afraid to come out. So he goes up under the name Paul to tell his story. And Paul indicated that he brought out so many of these idiosyncrasies and things that were going wrong, and he became sanctioned. And he was like, whoa, I've never been sanctioned out of my entire career, but I'm being sanctioned. Yeah, so you can shut up. They don't want you to tell the truth. So let's go into, what does justice look like for you? Because we have about less than 10 minutes left. So I want to get into the solution, because you've been through a lot. I would say you've been through hell. If I had to put it in some way, shape, form, or fashion, you've been through hell. What does justice look like for you at this point?
The fact of the matter is, we are protected as families. And the law is very crystal clear, MCL 700-5306, which grants, number 3, that the adult child is the first caregiver of the adult if they need a guardian.
Mm-hmm.
The adult child. That's number 3 right at the top. Number 6 at the bottom is if no one can be found. If no one can be found, then the court has the right to appoint a guardian. What they've done in recent decades is they have found a loophole in the probate system, and they take number 3 and they cross it out and they go right down to number 6. So when you walk in the door of probate under any issue that you have, they go right to number 6, and they bypass any power of attorney, guardianship, anything the family's already got in place, and they say, well, we're canceling it and we're going to appoint you a guardian, and then the money starts rolling. Now, Barbara Andrelucci, who was an Oakland County public attorney, public administrator, she was caught red-handed stealing. It was all over the news. And what happened is, people like us were waiting impatiently to see what she was going to be charged. She was charged. And what was going to happen? Was she going to go to jail, prison? Is this going to be the end of it? What happened? Within weeks, the 4 probate judges, Judge O'Brien, Judge Hallmark, Judge Callahan, and Judge Ryan, the chief judge, they gave her a job back in the probate court, and we see her today working behind the probate counter. So all of the court cases that come through the door now, today, last week, she has access to them. And yet she's got a criminal charge against her. We don't know what happened to her charges, but she has access to all of Oakland County's probate cases that come in the door. And she has the ability now to file them out to this judge and this judge and this judge, and clue the group in as to what you can get from this estate, what you can get from this. Here there's a brother and sister. Here there's a missing, the father just died of COVID. So there's just the wife and she's got dementia. Here's one. You can go right in and help yourself. It's a honeypot. So we want to know, this is how the system works. It's corruption. It's almost running like a mafia system where you have certain people in place that are enabling all the little foot soldiers to do their jobs and get the money in the pot. And I don't know who's getting paid off, but there's a reason that these judges are enabled, and they run unopposed. They run unopposed. Why is that?
So
My
it sounds
family's-
like you would like justice, the laws that are in place that are favorable to this process to be followed. And when
Yes.
they are not followed, there should be some repercussions. There should be
Thank-
arrest made. There should be jail time.
Yes, and it shouldn't have to be on the victim's shoulders to do this.
Exactly.
That's not our jobs. That's not our jobs to go write a report for the attorney grievance that is a jury of all attorneys who probably know these guys and aren't going to give them very many sanctions. And the judges, they have a jury of judges. So we need citizens, more citizens involved in the jury process of these legal eagles in there, and more oversight from the Attorney General, the governor, and anyone else who has the power to go in and straighten up corruption, because it is corruption and it needs to stop. And see, I'm from a baby boomer generation, and guess what? Our generation is huge, and it's next. It's coming up. And if we don't do something now to stop this, we're going to be the next huge society of victims. And I want it ended before that happens. I want the justice seen for what it is, the rules and laws in place that were voted on and set for the safety and well-being of everybody followed. And we have to get these people who are enablers to this corruption in check, or reprimanded.
Absolutely.
We have to have tougher assistance. We tried to get assistance from the Attorney General, and she turned a lame ear. Well, it looks like Dana Nessel is friends with the chief judge of Oakland County Probate. They worked together in Wayne County. So she seems to be hiding and reserving her attempt to end particularly Oakland County. Now, Kim Worthy, we talked to her and she said, bring me the cases from Wayne County. I wish we had Kim Worthy in Oakland County running that, because she was very concerned about the cases and what was going on.
Well, she's one of my least favorite people, so
I'm
she might be
sorry.
concerned about that, but she got a lot of wrongful convictions under her belt.
Oh,
Well, as always, we have run out of time, but I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for allowing me to be a part of your army, to help you fight this cause, and to help you bring awareness to the people, especially those who are in my listenership. I see Sheila Jewell on here. Hi, I miss you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in, and everybody else that tuned in. You have been listening to Black Coffee, no sugar, no cream. And this segment is called Devils in the Courtroom. It appears every third Monday of the month. I have had 5 stories of probate court corruption coming out of Oakland County in Judge O'Brien's courtroom. And there are many more, and we shall continue to expose them. And I hope something is done. This cannot continue to happen. Thank you so much, Chris, for coming on the show. I'm going to do a Black Coffee After Dark, and we'll take this conversation there where we'll have a little bit more time. And I'm hoping to also do a forum where we can bring more awareness, resources, and solutions. What can people do to avoid this situation? What does that look like? And if anybody wants to join this fight, they need court watchers, people to watch what's going on. There are so many roles that you can play in this fight for justice. I will see you all next week, and it will be a Stop the Madness Monday, where I'm going to talk about what happened at the Capitol and so much more, and what are my expectations, because I don't give a damn how many black people you appoint to office. What they gonna do? We had people in seats before, and nothing's changed. So what's really going on? That's what we're going to talk about next week. You guys have a wonderful week, and I'll talk to you soon. So long.
Mom, Dad, maybe what I was thinking.
Thinking what?
Someday, will we have a better future?
Someday. Lately is more than
Right.
enough.